Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, verse 24. Tadashmasaram hridayam batedam yadgrahyamanir harinamadheyai. न विक्रियेतात यदा विकारो
न विक्रियेत
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्ष.
Wow. Wow. What is that? नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्षः.
नेत्रे जलं
तदस्मसारं हृदयं बतेदं
तदस्सारं हृदयं बतेदम्
यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयै
यद्क्रियमाणैर्हरिनामधेयै
न विक्रियेतात यदा विकारो
न विक्रियेत यदा विकारो
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्ष.
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्ष
तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदम्
तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदम्
यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयै
यद्क्रियमाणैर्हरिनामधेयै
न विक्रियेतात यदा विकारो
न विक्रियेत यदा विकारो
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्ष.
नेत्रे जलं
गात्ररुहेषु हर्ष तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदम्
तदश्मसारं हृदयं बतेदम्
यद्गृह्यमाणैर्हरिनामधेयै
यद्गृह्यमानैर्हरिनामधेयै
न विक्रियेत यदा विकारो
न विक्रियेतात यदा विकारो
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्ष
नेत्रे जलं गात्ररुहेषु हर्ष. Translation purport by Divine Grace Avai Charanarinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Next, that Asham Saram is still framed.
Ashamsaram is steel framed.
Hridayam heart.
Hridayam heart.
Bhata idham, certainly that.
Bata
Certainly that.
Yat which.
Yat which.
Grihyamanaihi, in spite of chanting.
Grihyamanaihi, in spite of chanting.
Harinama, the holy name of the Lord.
Harinama, the holy name of the Lord.
Theyaihi, by concentration of the mind.
by concentration of the mind.
Na, does not.
Na,
does not.
Vikriyeta, change.
Vikriyeta, change.
Atha, thus. Yadha, when.
Yada,
when.
Vikara, reaction.
Vikara,
reaction.
Netre, in the eyes.
Netre, in the eyes.
Jalam, tears.
Jalam, tears.
Khatra, ruheshu, at the pores.
Gatra, ruheshu, at the pores.
Harsha, eruptions of ecstasy.
Harsha, eruptions of ecstasy.
Translation, please repeat after me. Certainly that heart is steel framed which?
Certainly that
Certainly
heart
that heart is
framed
still
with,
framed which,
In spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration,
in
in
spite
spite
of
of one's
one's
chanting
chanting
the
the
holy
holy
name of
name
the
of the
Lord with
Lord with
concentration,
concentration,
does not change when ecstasy takes place.
does
does
not
not
change
change
when
when
ecstasy
ecstasy
takes
takes place.
place.
Tears fill the eyes and the hair stand on end.
Tears
Tears in the
fill the
eyes and the
eyes
hairs
and hair
stand on
stand on
end.
end.
Purport. We should note with profit that in the first three chapters of the second canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness by the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed, and a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in his universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God, through the material manifestations of his energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and the senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as the super soul in every heart and everywhere, in every atom of the material universe. The system of Pancha Upasana, recommending five
Mental attitudes.
recommending five mental attitudes for the common man is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development, worship of the superior that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal supersoul, the partial presentation of Lord Vishnu. They are all nicely described in the second chapter. But in the third chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship or pure devotional service. And the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested herein in relation to the change of heart. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So, with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment by a false sense of lording it over the world and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Vidhi Bhakti or regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands, and the legs, as already explained herein before, is now stressed herein in relation to the mind, which is the impetus of all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel framed, for it is not melted even when there is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties, and if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead.
If the reaction, ನಾನು ಅವ್ಳು lovely ಪಡಿಬೇಡ
Padi.
ತಪ್ಪು.
If, if the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible by tears in the eyes and standing of hair on the end. The bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap appreciation. Not only Vishwanath Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees. Prakrita Sahajiyas, but the pseudo symptoms are at once detected when one sees the pseudo devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, and illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated, and for this reason, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms. Yet, if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. When Lord Chaitanya met Srila Ramanand Rai of Kavor on the bank of the Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms. But because of the presence of some non-devotee Brahmanas who were attendants of the Raya, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So sometimes they are not visible even in the body of the first-class devotee for certain circumstantial reasons. Therefore, real steady bhava is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires, shanti, and utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Avyartha kalatvam, eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly, nama gane sadaruchi, attraction for living in the land of the Lord, Priti Stad Vasati Sthale, complete detachment from material happiness, Virakti, and pridelessness, Manasunyata. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhava stage as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually relish the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. And the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires, etc., as mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations without following the acharyas. As such, even if they make a show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot relish the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore, the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, unconsciousness, etc. is condemned. They can, however, get in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone-hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the path return path home back to Godhead will depend on the instructions of the revealed scriptures directly by a realized devotee. Directed by
हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरु महाराज की जय।
जय गुरुदेव।
ओम ज्ञान तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नमः मुखं वरोधि वाचालं पंगुं लङ्कायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं तेनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। हरि ओम तत्सत्। So this is a very beautiful verse and the purport is amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. The heart transformation is the core issue of our chanting process, not ecstasy is the core issue. Because even after getting ecstasy, when you chant Hare Krishna, you will get ecstasy naturally. But after getting ecstasy, the heart is not changed. That is the most unfortunate situation. So this is very, 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 very important. One was steel framed. Nowadays, the medical science is changing the heart, steel framed. So this modern science is making steel framed hearts. But we can understand that formerly also there was steel framers. Steel framed hearts were there. Otherwise, how this word comes in Bhagavatam? Tadasham saram hridayam vetada batedam. So just like stone or steel does not melt very easily, similarly, anyone's heart which does not change after chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra regularly, when it is to be understood that it is steel framed. So made of stone or iron. Actually, Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam Kale Nasteva, 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 Gadiranyata. It is especially meant for cleansing the heart. All misconception is within our heart. Beginning from the wrong identification that I am this body, that is the beginning of all misconception. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. As you go on chanting, gradually the heart will be cleansed and you will be able to understand that you are not this body. That is called Jnana Vairagya. Jnana means to know thoroughly that I am not this body. This is Jnana. And as soon as you know that you are not this body, naturally you become disinterested with anything which has got bodily relation, right? Cheto darpanam arjunam bhavamavadavagni nirvapanam. Bhava means a repetition of birth and death. Bhava means punar munshiko bhava. Bhava means again you become. So means you die also, because this is the word. To become does not mean that you stay forever. That is not possible. You become means you die and birth again. But under wrong impression, as soon as I became, I think that this word is very nice. No. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is singing, my dear Lord, when I was in the womb of my mother, at that time I saw you once became visible. Those who are spiritually advanced, they can see God within the womb of the mother. When the child remains packed up and the consciousness is gained, he feels very uncomfortable. So at that time, one who is pious, spiritually advanced, he prays to God, please rescue me from this bondage. I am too much suffering. And this time, after taking my birth, I shall simply be engaged in Krishna consciousness. He promises. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Janama hoilo podi maya chale. As soon as birth is taken, the Maya is there. We forget. Immediately, father, mother, other relatives, they take up the child and pats very nice. Wow. So in this way, we forget that we were in such a precarious condition, almost suffocating. Almost it is suffocating after coming out from the womb of the mother. If you are packed up again in such an airtight bag, within 3 seconds, you will die. We live under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, that is not living condition at all in the womb. Just imagine within the womb. So this we forget. And being taken care of affectionate father and mother on the lap, we think life is very nice. Wow. This life, this is Maya, illusion. Actually, this bhava, to take birth, is very, very unpleasant task. It's blazing fire. Bhavamava Mahadavagni. So if we can cleanse our heart during this life, this is that opportunity. It's not possible. So when I take animal as cats and dogs, that is not possible. But as I have got now this human form of body, we should not be again misled. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhava mahadavagni. If we can cleanse our heart, then this blazing fire of repetition of birth and death can be extinguished. But the illusory energy, it is very strong that we forget our last death time miseries. At the time of death, we suffer very much. So that, just imagine, when we give up our life, how much difficult position at that time. So we forget birth and death. As soon as there is birth, there is death also. Death means the more you are advancing in age, that means you are dying. You are advancing in death. The child is born. When the child is born, just yesterday, that means he has already died one day. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So in this way, death is progressing. As soon as there is birth, the death is there immediately, side by side. I am 1 day old means I have died 1 day. I am 76 years old means I have already died 76 years. Suppose I live, say, 80 years, 90 years. So I have already died 76 years. So death is sure. So they say we are advancing. What is that advancement? Death is sure. You cannot control birth, death, old age. You cannot stop old age. And disease, you can manufacture nice medicine, but you cannot stop the disease. So we have become steel-hearted, steel-framed heart. We don't consider all these things. These are practical. And still, we are under the impression that we are advancing in material civilization. We are advancing in the art of cutting stone and wood. That's all. This is our advancement. Just like in the countries, like US, within 2 months, they can build one wood house. They're very expert in cutting wood. That is the means. So this is advancement. Wood cutter, stone cutter. But we are not meant for cutting wood and stone. We are meant for understanding our spiritual identity. There are many birds. The woodcutter bird is there. So that is not very expert manifestation of our intelligence. So this cleansing of heart will be possible. Harinama Dheyaihi. This is standing of Harinama. Harinama, 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 Iva Kevalam, Kale Nasteva, 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 Gadiranyata. Anything, any spiritual progress is meant for cleansing the heart. Either you take Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. The ultimate goal is the cleansing the heart. At the present moment, I am under misconception, dirty things accumulated on my heart. That I am this body, and therefore I don't try to realize that I am soul. And under bodily concept of life, as animals, they are also in bodily concept of life. They are busy eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Similarly, human civilization, it has become like animals. They are interested only in eating, sleeping, mating, and defense. That's all. But that's not our position. It's a chance to get out of the entanglement of birth, death, old age, and disease. This is our real business. Cheto Dharpana Marchanam. We are misguided. Our so-called leaders are misleaders. They do not know what is the aim of life. That is the difficulty at the present moment. Not at the present moment. In the material world, this problem is always existing. But due to this Kali age, that problem is more acute. That's all. So this chanting of Hare Krishna mantra without offenses, 10 kinds of offenses, Prabhupada is quoting in the purport, will cleanse the heart if you avoid. And then you will be liberated. Cheto darpanam arjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam. Because of now, we know the path, how we can get out of these clutches of birth and death. There are so many big scientists, philosophers, they don't talk of this important subject matter, how to get out of birth and death. They have no solution, neither they can think of it. But our Krishna consciousness movement is giving us the knowledge that you can get out of these clutches of birth and death, old age and disease. That is our desire. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to go again into the womb of the mother. Nobody wants disease and nobody wants to grow old. But the so-called scientists, they have no proposal to get out of these clutches. And here Srimad Bhagavatam gives you the hint that Harinama Deyaihi, by chanting Harinama, Harirnama, Harirnama, Harirnama Iva Kevalam, you can get out of this. And when Harinama will be perfect, that symptoms are given here also. Netre jalam gatra ruheshu harsha. Netre Netre jalam gatra Ruheshu Harsha. So, by chanting, when you will, not always, sometimes, out of ecstasy, when tears will come down and there will be shivering on the body, that means you are coming to perfection. This is not to be artificially practiced. No. When you actually come to the perfectional stage, this will automatically appear. So this verse suggests that if a person is chanting Hare Krishna mantra, but his eyes are not tearful, or there is no ecstatic shivering of the body, then that means he is not coming to the perfectional point. So if we chant this Hare Krishna mantra without offense, and observing the regulative principles, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Ghananati Bhi Shad Goswami Ashtaka. The Goswamis in Vrindavan, they used to chant, keeping a numerical strength. They were all liberated persons still. For teaching us an example, they also used to chant, keeping a numerical count, numerical strength. Haridas Thakur, he used to chant Hare Krishna mantra, keeping a numerical strength 300,000 times. 300,000 times. So our prescription is only 25,000, not 100,000 even. So it is not very difficult. It takes at most 2 hours. We can find out of 24 hours, 2 hours, we can find out time and chant 16 rounds every day. So if we actually follow the rules and regulation and chant Hare Krishna mantra, then these symptoms will come. Netre jalam gatra rubeshu harsha. And when this comes, then you know that I am coming to perfection. And if it is not coming, then it is to be understood the heart is steel framed. It is steel only, stone. If we keep our heart stone or steel framed, then it cannot be melted. These symptoms mean heart is melting or changing. So, chanting of Hare Krishna process is very serious process. We should chant, we should hear, and we should see our heart is melting, tears coming down sometimes in ecstasy. So this is positive progress will be possible if we follow the instruction of the Vedas. Srila Rupa Goswami, she is telling, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatri Ki Vidim Vina Aikantiki Hare Bhakti Utpatayaiva Kalpate. Shruti means Vedas, Shastras, Shruti, Smriti. And Smriti means books which follows the Vedic principle. Vedas, suppose you write one book or anything, if it is just according to the Vedic conclusion, then it is also Smriti. By remembering the Vedic conclusion, you cannot go beyond the Vedic conclusion anyway. Then it is useless writing. Vedic conclusion must be there. The guide must be there. On that conclusion, if you write something, that's all right. And if you deviate from that conclusion, and then it is wrong. So we want to read authorized write books, not by imagination. You can write so many nonsense things by imagination. That is useless. You must remember what is a Vedic conclusion. So we read Srila Prabhupada books. So Shruti, Smriti, Pancharatra Vidhi. Pancharatra Vidhi means this Archana, temple worship, under the direction of spiritual master, Narada. He wrote the Pancharatra Vidhi. So if one gives up all these regulative principles and wants to become a devotee, a writer, then Rupa Goswami says, without the conclusive statement of the Vedas, Smritis and Pancharatra Vidhi, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatra Vidhi Vina, without following, Aikantiki Harer Bhakti, the show of a devotee, the Aikantiki Harer Bhakti, Utpataiva Kalpate, it is simply disturbance. Disturbance. So such things are happening. Now, anyone is manufacturing his own way of self-realization. And there are rascals who are supporting it. Everyone. They are independent. We can find out our own way of worship. But Rupa Goswami says, this is simply creating disturbance. That's very natural to understand. Suppose we have got some regulative principles. If everyone says that I can manufacture my own way of worshipping the deity, then what will be the condition? It will be simply pandemonium, you see. So that's going on. Everyone is manufacturing a type of religion, meditation without any references to the authorized books, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi. Therefore, people are becoming atheists. No religion, no principle. The whole world is in chaos due to this. So Rupa Goswami has forbidden. And in Bhagavad Gita also it is said, Yashastra vidim usrujya vartate kamakartha. Anyone who does not give respect to the authorized shastras, but he lives whimsically according to his own way, na siddhim na vapnoti, such kind of discovering new path of religious system, new path of this and that, he never gets perfection. Na siddhim sa avapnoti, na sukham, neither happiness, na paramgati. Because our whole aim is how to get out of this material engagement and go back to the spiritual world, go back to home. That's the aim. That is called paragatim. Para means transcendental. Gati means aim of life. Paragati. So those who are not following the authorized instructions, they are simply creating disturbance. And by such process, one cannot be happy, neither perfect. And what to speak of going back to home, back to garden? We don't, therefore, accept anything which is not authorized by the disciplic succession. We reject immediately. There is example. There is a tree, sajna tree, the tree has a very thick trunk, but a little jerking, it will break. Little jerking, it will break. It has a thick trunk, but little jerking, it will break. Sajna tree. There is another tree which is called tamarind tree. So even a finger-like stem, you cannot break. It is so strong. So our policy should be that when we are falling down, we must take shelter of this tamarind tree, not that sajna tree. The tamarind tree is Vedic instruction, infallible, without any mistake. Sajna tree is very strong trunk, but little jerk it will break. And tamarind tree, even a small twig also you cannot break. It's very strong. Wonderful analogy. As I have given you several times, Prabhupada says, the example that Veda says that stool of an animal is impure, and in another place it says the stool of a cow is pure. And now, if you are a good logician, you can argue that stool of animal is impure. That is already said. Why you make the stool of cow is pure? But that's a fact. You analyze the stool of cow, you will find it full of antiseptic properties. That is Vedic knowledge. It gives you right knowledge. You cannot conclude that stool of animal is impure. So why this animal stool can be pure? No. Vedic knowledge is so perfect that you can accept it as it is and you will be profited. That's all. So, in the Vedic knowledge, the Vishnu Paramam Padam, the supreme goal is Vishnu. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Suraya. This Rigveda mantra, some rascal scholars, so-called, they say these Vedas, these mantras are some primitive. Now we are advanced, so we shall create our own mantra. You see, this is going on. The primitive, we have to study. Primitive means very, very old. So whether in the days gone by, people were actually happy or now they are happy. See that. Even if you say primitive, the primitive life is very nice. Primitive life means simple life, keeping pace with the natural's law. So, it is very nice. It gives you anxiety-free life. And therefore, even if you take it as primitive, the saintly person, sages, they used to live long, long years. And their brain was so sharp because they were taking natural food, fruits, grains, and milk that helps to develop human brain for understanding subtle subject matter. So even Vyasadeva, you have seen the picture of Vyasadeva. He is writing books just near a cottage only. He is writing. Nobody can create such literature. But he was leading very simple life in a cottage. Say 2000 years ago or little more. There was Chanakya Pandita was also there. He was a Brahmana, but great politician. His politics are studied even now in MA class. And because he was a great politician, diplomat, under his name in our India, in New Delhi, the capital, there is a neighborhood which is called Chanakyapuri. And all foreign embassies are there. Your American embassy is also there. So he was a great politician, but still he was living in a cottage. He was not accepting any salary because he was Brahmana. Brahmana cannot accept any salary. Just like you have accepted Acharya in our parampara, but we don't pay the Acharya any salary. This is forbidden. This is forbidden. The teacher will not accept any salary. Then he comes down to the Sudra platform if he takes salary. Sudra accepts salary. I serve you, you pay me. I serve you, you pay me. That is Sudra platform. And the Brahmana will distribute knowledge freely. And the Kshatriya will give protection to the Brahmana. This is the system of Vedic system. So even in 50 years ago or 100 years ago, education in India, there was no charges actually. A learned Brahmana will sit down any corner of a neighborhood and all children will come there. They will learn primary education and the parents of the children will send, somebody will send rice, somebody will send dal, somebody just like, we are maintaining. So by collecting. So that is a style. The whole system was like that. Loving exchange. I give you some service, you give me something out of your love. Dadadi pratikrishnati. Love means 6 symptoms. I give you something, you give me something. I give you something for eating, you give me something for eating. Dadadi pratikrishnati. Bhunkte bojayate. Guhyam akyati prachati. Upadeshamrita. If I am in trouble, I express my mind. I open my mind before you and you also try to help me. These are the 6 signs of love, that is Vedic civilization. Everything exchange of love, no business, mercantile, no. So that is the purpose. So our chanting should cleanse our heart and transform our heart. And if it's not happening, that means we are committing some offenses. So we must take care of the 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name, especially the Adi Mata, the first offense, the offense against the Vaishnava who has dedicated their life in propagating the holy name of the Lord. This is called a mad elephant offense we should never ever commit. And in Vrindavan, we should not commit any mistake, any offense, because in Vrindavan and Mayapur Dham, when you do some activity, devotional service, it counts 1,000 times. Gives you more result. But at the same time, unlike Mayapur in Vrindavan, if you commit a mistake, that also counts 1,000 times multiplied. So you should be very careful when you visit Vrindavan. And in Mayapur, you have to only avoid again aparad, Vaishnava aparad. You should not commit offenses against a Vaishnava. Other offenses are, not considered so seriously in Mayapur. So it's very easy to progress in devotional service when you visit Mayapur and stay more number of days. And Vrindavan, we don't stay more than 3 days. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments or realization you can share with us? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Thank you for the association. We'll resume our class tomorrow morning sharp at 8 o'clock. Till then, Grandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vaishnav Pranam.
Vanchakalpadaya.
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai. So, Guru Maharaj is in ICU in Delhi hospital. So, please chant some extra names and circumnavigate Tulsi the second 4 rounds and offer to Guru Maharaj for his health, speedy recovery. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.